Welcome back. Today is going to be day number 6 of cutting the Citrine's Pavilion. I'm about halfway done with cutting through this, so we're getting very close to getting to transfer to the other side and start cutting. Again, I want to thank all of y'all who have followed me and followed my journey as I've gotten here. Um, Again, it's still fledgling, but it is a start, and so I'm really trying to get more people interested so I can keep providing more of this content if there is interest. Um, Everything that I am doing is live streamed on Twitch at first, at the time it's recorded, and then from there it goes directly to YouTube. So if you would like to rewatch again, you can rewatch off of YouTube as well. Um, and my eventual goal is to be able to take the full length of this cut with all of the different compilation videos of each different set of facets and be able to condense it down so that way there is a like compilation video that would allow me to um, shorten it up for people to just watch for 10 minutes instead of the whole multiple hour sessions. So, but yeah, I'm having a lot of fun doing this so far, and this gem is going fairly quickly on the cutting and polishing, which is very nice. So it'll just allow me to get ready to plan out and start out the next one. So without further ado, it's time to start. So as you can see on the video, or the bore cam here, we've gotten majority of the P6 and P7 facets fully polished. This is a cerium oxide lap that is on this specific machine at this moment, so it's going to be able to provide a lot cleaner polish and not just a pre-polish type of polish. I'm also going to turn down this light because it's tending to reflect off my glasses a bit. So, but yeah, so with this polish, it is allowing us to, or me to be able to see through the stone a lot clearer and see if there's anything in there. And also just to provide the final brilliant luster for the actual stone once it's finished. So at this point now we're going to be going on to the P5 facets and then the P4. We've already polished the P3 and P2, which is the girdle band along this center here. So all that would be left is the P1 after that. And then once all of those are finished, we will be ready to transfer the stone and get it to the other side and start cutting up the crown. The crown section of the stone is going to be the top section, which is where you would traditionally see the stone through. Whereas right now we're basically working on the bottom portion of the stone or the pavilion. So without further ado, I'm going to stop talking and start cutting. So I'm also trying to change a little bit how much talking I'm doing. I don't I do want to give useful information to everybody who is watching, but at the same time, I want to be able to also spend some of the time focusing on it, especially during the polishing phase. So you may see that I'm a little bit more quiet on this polishing phase than I am on the cutting phase. Um, and again, that is just because it is a little bit more of a focus required section. So if I get quiet, feel free to jump in the chat and bug me a little bit, and I can respond from there. Also going to quickly do a quick check, just make sure that I'm actually streaming, which I am. Perfect. And make sure that it's sounding good. And it does sound good, so I think we're good to go. I also reset my PC, so hopefully it's not going to have any issues with the video getting cut off at the end of it. So I'm going to, though, start cutting. We'll get going. So for the P5 facet, which is the this next facet that I'll be cutting, um, it is the same degree angle as the P6 facet. So there's not very much of a difference in terms of adjustments that need to be made on the machine. Only different indexes selected in order to do so. Um, so basically, I got another 8 cuts or polishes to do, 8 different individual indexes, and then we should be good to go on to the next one. So I'm gonna start getting that done now. So I think I already preset this up. Yes, I did. And the P5 facet for this specific cut is going to be here at the, oh, that's a little too close, is going to be on, if you look at the bore cam, this kind of like triangle right here, as well as the opposing triangle right here. And that's going to go all the way around the stone. So let's start this up. I got just filled up some water in the machine, so it's good to go. And then from there, start polishing. Just so I don't overcut, I may slightly raise. There we go. This polish. On my dial indicator, I was a couple degrees or clicks away from the actual perfect set point that I'm looking for, so I'm adjusting it to be closer to what the actual degree set point is, which for this cut is 42 degrees. So that way it'll end up being easier to polish, and it's going to require less time doing so. Set up in my chair a little bit more. Much better. The cool thing is now is since this polish works very well on a citrine and a quartz type material, I'm already being able to see through the stone, and the other side facets are catching the light just from the light that's right here. This one's probably the sharpest image of returned light that I've seen, or refracted indexed light, thus far in any of the stones I've cut. So it's actually just proving to show how quickly this is going to become a really brilliant stone. And then per the way that I am also setting up this specific stone and polishing is I'm going to be using my magnifier, my head-mounted magnifier a lot more, just because I want to be sure that the polish is actually being applied in the right way. Otherwise, I can miss things just barely, and it won't necessarily affect it, but it'll just not look right on the final, or when it's finally done, because you might see a patch that's just not fully polished or whatnot. It'll look like a blemish on the stone. Some of these meat points are getting fairly fine too. I'll let you see right here. So you might be able to already see what I'm talking about. I'm cutting right now this specific P5. You can kind of see its shape. It's getting more and more pointed as it goes up, meaning the meat points at each of these different locations have to be finer and finer in order to actually ensure that you have the right um, meet points and the right or to follow the design to the way it's supposed to be. So, but yeah, this is already looking real good. You can see right there if I adjust the light how much different the stone looks with the polish versus the no polish. Remember if I got this already at the tip. Actually, can't really see that. So, what I'm gonna do, somewhere in the background over here, yeah, here we go. I have that's just a 10 power. I have a higher power eye for the headset that I'm using. So my right eye I currently have set up with a 20 power, but my left eye will be set up with a 25 power, so I'll be able to see a little bit closer. Sometimes you can need it, especially if the light's not in super favorable, or if it's just a really hard to see portion, or if you're like me and have stigmas that require you to wear glasses, you can't quite see in the first place. That did actually slightly help. Now I can kind of tell what I'm looking at. Also going to turn on this little handy light that it comes with so I can see in more detail what I'm trying to see. Okay, there is just a little bit there at the top that's not fully polished. So I'm going to turn this off, pull it up and out of the way, and then keep going. The light can really play an effect in it too, like because when you start to polish all of the facets around it, it's hard to tell if you're polishing the right facet because you're seeing through the stone, and sometimes you can confuse what you're trying to cut with something that you have not yet cut. And sometimes determining whether or not that was the actual correct facet is the hardest part. So that's why generally speaking, I'm trying to be a little bit more focused with this so that I don't have any catastrophic mistakes. And catastrophic is a little bit dramatic, but it would make it quite difficult to correct if I cut, say, the wrong indexed um, the wrong facet on a wrong index. So if I wasn't quite paying attention when I was setting up the actual index here and then put it to the wrong one. It's something that can happen frequently, especially if you're just kind of like listening to music or not paying attention or watching a TV show. Adjust it, go to cut, and you can usually tell immediately that you messed up because it'll sound a lot louder than it should on the actual lap. And then it's like, oh crap. I've actually gotten into the habit of physically counting in my head every single index from every time I adjust it just in case. I've actually had it save me once or twice. Because you go there and you just put the index to what you think it should be, and you're like, oh, this is good enough, and then you're like, no, I'm actually going to count it, and then, oh, wait, actually, that's not what I was thinking it was. Now this side polished up much quicker than the other side, which is nice. In fact, I might already be pretty close to being done. Nope. Get out the higher power side with the light. That's pretty much done. Alright. So now, turn that off. I'm going to go to the next, which is 27. Okay. Oh, that looks nice. This is coming out very quickly and very nicely. Apply a little bit more on this side. There we go. It's looking better. So for those of you watching at home, if you take a look at the bore camera side, I'm going to put this here. Now you can see that both of those sides have in fact been polished. That's the P5 facets, which are located here and here. So it lets it go completely clear, and it really allows for the light to come in and catch at the top of that meet point, as well as where this not yet polished triangle is going to be. That's going to get a lot of light capture within it as well, which will help make this a much prettier and more glistening stone. Okay. Just gotta go back. Sure that is good. I am trying to manage the stream at the same time, so I want to make sure that it's looking good for y'all and there's no issues with the quality. I am using the free to use OBS software to capture my my videos, and it's working pretty well, especially for adding in multiple cameras and putting it on the fly. It's just I want to make sure that there is no problems, so I have both the OBS going and the stream going at the same time so I can actually see what's going on. So we're going to go over to 45. Okay. Now having both of these different um, magnifying powers, it can make it a little bit odd if you're looking through it, so that's why you'll tend to see me squinting when I'm looking through one or the other, just because you can kind of get yourself a little disoriented from having two different powers. It's like looking through a bad set of glasses. 58, okay. So by this point, we're already about halfway there for these. Gonna apply a little bit I'm also trying not to overcut because even though this is a polishing lap, it can tend to cut a little bit. It's not as bad with this one as it is with lower grit polishes, but you can still see some of the facets move around if you sit on one of them for too long. I'm actually going to go back to the last one and apply a little bit more polish. Okay, now we're going to go on to the next. That sounds different. Looks correct though. Yep, that's right. Better to be cautious than overcut. You can sometimes tell by eye too if it's been really polished or not. That's looking good. Next is 75. Okay, and the last one, 93. 6. Alright, so at this point, I'm basically already done, amazingly enough. So here is what it looks like now. You can see that applying that polish has gotten it. Let's see if I can adjust this bore cam to be more visible. There we go. Has made it so that it's more polished on more of the facets. One of the ways I actually tell whether or not, especially if I can't quite see what I'm looking at, due to either being too small or the lighting or whatnot, is I'll actually take and check the light by moving the gem back and forth like you see me doing there. and then kind of seeing where those meet points are meeting at, because you can kind of use that to indicate how well you've got um, a meet point set up. So like there and there. Okay, that's looking pretty good. There and there. That's looking pretty good. And just continuing that pattern all through around the stone. It's a little overcut, but if I cut too much more, then I'm going to cut off the bottom. I might actually try and do that though. Which one is that? This one. Okay. Yep. Okay. So on the side of 72, so it's going to be the 75. So I'm kind of using the polish to both provide more polish as well as slightly move those meet points. You don't want to do too much because it wears out your laps, especially if they're a polishing lap, and that's not really the proper way to use them. But you can slightly even them out by doing that. Much better. Still not perfect, but better. Okay. Alright, so now the other thing you can already begin to sort of see is as this is getting turned, you can see the light through the gem is starting to return from the other side, which is a good thing. It means that there's a lot of light moving around. See how you can kind of see the reflection through this P6 facet right here to the back side, where you can see the frosted other side of the stone. In real life, it's much more noticeable than that. You can kind of see it kind of glitter with a rainbow-esque pattern at the edge of the refracted light. So overall, I'm pretty happy with that. So you can kind of see it on the main, or on my normal camera here. As I move it back and forth, it just kind of like twinkles a little. So yeah, I'm happy with it. So on to the next. So we just finished P5. We're going to go on to P4 next. P4 is only got 4 facets, but it's at a 60 and a half, essentially, degrees. So we are going to be adjusting this quite a bit. Alright. Now that I've adjusted it, I have to adjust the height of the actual quill itself. So now I've ran into the bottom of my, on the main camera, if you look on there, I've ran into the bottom edge of this lap encasement or water encasement. So what I'm actually going to have to do is slightly move the whole assembly back while carefully not harming my existing stone by accidentally moving it against something. I have two set up like rings where the base would end up mounting. I can actually show that a little bit here, maybe. My camera doesn't go down far enough. Dang. Okay, maybe not. But basically, at the base of the thing here, I'm able to adjust it forward and backward, which will now let me clear that 60 degrees, as you can see now, where this quill now no longer is hitting, or the index gear is no longer hitting the edge of the lap. So from here, drop it down some more. And then we are looking for, oh, just the main corners. Okay, perfect. So now that I did that, I'm going to have to adjust this camera right here. Okay. All right, and so now, so at this point, we're just basically taking these frosted sections off. So this frosted section right here, same right here, the big main section. The two other sections, the two little triangles that you see right here and right here and right here, are part of the P1 facet, which is a little bit further on in the polishing sequence. So that will be the next one that we'll end up doing. But for now, we're going to start on this P4. So, oh, before I did this, I wanted to make sure I was at level. I'm glad I checked because I was not. Okay, now my dial indicator has this at 0, which means that we are at exactly 60.5. So I'm gonna kind of wipe this down. My hands are a little sweaty today and getting oil on it, which just makes it harder for it to polish. Perfect, it's already starting to work there. Okay. So you can hear too, it's much quieter here than it is else, or when it was the first cut, which is good because that means that it's as close to the original cut as possible. It'll get much quieter when it's more accurate versus when it's less accurate. As an example, there's some slop here. I'll let you hear it. Hear how that changed very briefly. That is in my machine. I know where that is, and I can kind of correct for it and check it. So I tend to do that pretty frequently to ensure that I'm not overcutting in one direction or another. So we gotta get this. There we go. So here's an example already. You can see the difference between the side that I have been cutting here. There's already some polish right at the tip of my fingernail versus the other side right here that does not have any sort of polish. Since it's a big, large facet, it's going to take a little bit longer to polish than the smaller facets because it has a larger surface area it has to polish across. There we go. Now the whole bottom is more or less evenly. You can hear how it's changing. And that's literally me just playing with the slop in the machine on this index lever, which moves it around. It's looking really good though. This is the point where it's kind of nice to just listen to some music. I actually do have music going on in the background. Um, just to kind of keep the humdrum at bay. Alright, that's looking a bit better. So if you take a look, oh my goodness, my music is much louder than I expected it to be. So if you look in the on the board cam here, you can now see how polished this side right here above my fingernail is versus the opposite opposing side over there. So Excuse me. Oof. Looking pretty good so far. So, should it get us pretty close to where we need to be. Okay. And so, yeah. Alright. Let's see how much that. This is getting fairly close. It's just at the very tippy top of the stone now. Nice. Okay. And some good progress. Oh, excuse me. I'm going to try and get this facet at least polished up, and then I'll either start another video or I'll just do the other facets on offline, just because it does take so long and can be quite tedious, especially when there's not much going on. Quite a bit of movement. Nice. Alright, so I'll show you all so far what it looks like. As you can see now, it's pretty much completely clear. There we go, that's probably a good angle. On this side right here. There's a tiny bit that I'm still trying to get at the top right corner. That's present, but that's basically it. is not quite happy. Did something come loose? No. Oh, it's because I don't have water on it. And that's what happens when you forget to turn back on your water. Much better. Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. Need some coffee. So close. applying some slightly higher pressure on the uphill side of the lap to be able to try and get this right side corner. It's just taking more time than I anticipated. Oh, still there. Oh, nearly gone. Excuse me. There we go. Okay. So it's basically done now. I just got the final last couple scratches to get rid of. Then I'll be happy. Now I'm just being very picky. Alright. I think this is good enough to call basically done. At least with this one side. So let me turn off the water and turn off this, just my music, and make sure that y'all can see. There we go. So what you're seeing right there, turn off this light, is the polished side. So now I've got the other three to do, but that's probably going to be next video. um, but at this point, it's just those three, and then those little tiny like triangle portions above the polished side that look kind of like peaks of a mountain. And those are going to get polished, plus that little corner right there is going to get polished, and then it'll be done. So, alright, that's all I got for this one. I think I'm going to do part 2 coming up. Take a little break, grab some food, and then I'll come back and do it in a little bit. Alright. thank you for sticking around. If you haven't already, feel free to subscribe if you're on YouTube, watching this on YouTube, or follow if you're watching this on Twitch. And I hope you all have a rockin' day. See you later.